I was staying in a hotel in India, and I couldn't sleep. My flight would take off in just a few hours, and soon enough, I would be somewhere else. I had taken a 6-month break from my job of 5 years to travel the world, but somehow my mind kept taking me back to work. And it all started with a tuk-tuk. People say you should find work that makes you happy. You can find a career aligned with your skill set, a job with your purpose, something you're passionate about. But sometimes people forget that it's the day-to-day of work, even of fulfilling work, that is what is difficult. How can you keep engaged with work every day, knowing that that's what you're going to be doing for the next 50 years? My plan when I started traveling was to switch off work completely. But instead, at every step of the way, I found examples of happiness at work, often where I didn't expect them. And in the process, I reevaluated my own relationship with work. My first stop was India. And I don't know if you've been to India, but when you're there, it's usual that you're gonna ride a tuk-tuk, and sometimes you'll be many. And a tuk-tuk ride can be a bit of an adventure at first. There's dangerous takeovers. You need to negotiate the prices. Traffic can be insane. But somehow it's also a little bit of fun, in the way that it's only fun because it's not actually what your normal daily commute looks like. By the time I got to Bangalore with my 2 friends, we had been in many tuk-tuks, so when we needed a ride, we just got into the first one when we found. But when we got inside, everything changed. We were sitting in what can only be described as the best tuk-tuk in the world. Now, usually, these are very simple. It's a 3-wheeler with space for 3 people in the back, but this one was a completely different level. Between the driver and the passenger seat, there was plexiglass, so you could have those private conversations. The daily newspaper was folded neatly in a little holder. Then there were the decorations. Mandala stickers on the ceilings, children's drawings everywhere, a tiny vase with a plastic flower, even a little tuk-tuk miniature. It was a hot day, but you didn't have to worry. A bottle was clearly labeled drinking water. We spent a short time there taking in all the details. What made this experience unique was the level of care and attention and creativity involved. No detail was overlooked. Everything was done to make sure that we had the best possible experience, and of course we did. Usually, tuk-tuk rides are purely functional, but this ride, which took less than 10 minutes, cost just £1, but it added a lot of value to our trip. It became a story to tell. And it was an evident example of happiness at work. The dedication of the driver meant that he was delivering more than what he needed. And it has to be good for business, right? If you see that tuk-tuk, that's the one you're going to choose. And you might be thinking that this is a whole world away from here. But while we speak about job satisfaction now and in the future, those who have very different experience from us are finding their own ways of doing it. I had only been traveling for a couple of weeks, but I realized that this was a great example of what happiness at work looks like. So I started to wonder what that meant. When someone with such a simple job can bring that to their work, were there other examples? And of course, there were many. I went to South Africa, and in Cape Town, one of the things you can do is take the ferry to visit Robben Island, the prison where Nelson Mandela and many others were held during the apartheid regime. To get there, it takes about an hour. When I visited, it was a sunny day. I could get the most amazing views of Table Mountain in the back. There were otters swimming along with us. But when you get there, the story is much darker because you're learning about really bad things that happened quite recently. You learn about prison life, the racist policies, the attempted escapes. But what makes this experience truly unique is that it's told from the point of view of someone who was a prisoner there themselves. Our guide told us about the daily routines, about how the guards took away simple benefits, such as food rations and family visits. And he made that more relevant by sharing his own experience. But slowly, a very different story started to appear. Our guide was very positive. He was funny. When he greeted us at the prison gates, his first question to the group was, "Why do you all look so serious?" He called us his prisoners. He said if we didn't behave, we wouldn't be allowed to leave at the end of the tour. And the truth is that Robben Island was a very terrible place, but it's also where people learned and shared, and that's what he was bringing with this positive in his attitude. But the truth is, the only reason why he could tell that story in that way, other than the fact that he's a funny guy and he's got a dark sense of humor, is because he lived it firsthand. It wouldn't be appropriate for someone else to tell the same story in that way. And I was really impressed by that authenticity and ownership of his own story. Bringing your whole self to work can be harder than it seems, but it's also a great way of drawing people in. It's something that many of us struggle with, but something that I learned in Robben Island. We are often taught that we need to be professional, and somehow, in the process, we may forget who we are. But the boundaries of work continue to change. The idea of work-life balance becomes more and more irrelevant because work is life. Tech companies already know that. That's why they have the fancy offices, the free food, and all the table tennis. But in Robben Island, they already know that too. But my favorite place in the world is Japan. I visited Kyoto, which is famous for its hundreds of Buddhist temples. One of the things you can do while you're there is try out some Buddhist meditation. And that's what I did. It was an autumn day when I joined a group of another 40 tourists at Shukoin Temple. I sat on the tatami, and I could see the Zen garden outside. There was a large group of American high school students in front of me, clearly unsure about why they were sitting there. And in walks Reverend Taka, who is the Zen master. As you'd expect, he's wearing all black. As you'd expect, he's barefoot. His head is shaved. Maybe not as you'd expect. He is wearing an Apple Watch, but fair enough. And he introduces the session, and we meditate for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And after that, Reverend Taka speaks. And he could have spoken about the importance of focusing on the breath. He could have introduced some basic Buddhist concepts, but he didn't. Instead, he spoke about artificial intelligence and big data. He compared our brains to computers, said that the reason why we can't focus for very long is that our brain's processing capacity is just not that great. Because he spoke like that, we listened. He found common ground between him and his audience. And by doing that, he made the concept of Zen meditation accessible to all. After the session, he took us around the temple grounds to learn about its history. Overlooking the Zen garden, I overheard those American high school students deep in conversation about artificial intelligence and big data. Now, I'm not sure that the traditional Zen master curriculum has such a big focus on technology, but because Reverend Tucker is passionate about this, he pursued that interest, and he made his work more appealing to a broader audience. Curiosity and authenticity can make work richer, and by sharing his passion about technology with his audience, Reverend Tucker got a different response. You can even follow him on Instagram. And that taught me that you can think creatively about your skills. Aside from STEM skills, creativity and adaptability are often listed as key skills for the workforce of the future. So whatever you're passionate about, no matter how relevant to your work it is, you should pursue it, because if nothing else, it will make you more interesting. I told a story from India, one from South Africa, and one from Japan, but I have many others. In my travels, I learned that happiness can be found in many different ways, and it can be found in any work, often with authenticity and creativity, where you'd least expect it. After 6 months of traveling, I was ready to go back to work. I was feeling re-energized, refreshed, and ready to go back into a normal routine. But I also found a renewed sense of purpose. I had learned that happiness can be found in any work, so I wanted to bring this to my own work in my own way. I started to take proper lunch breaks and had great conversations with my colleagues. I took the time to appreciate the work of those who I work with. And I created a new morning routine, which includes meditating and exercising. That puts me in the right mindset for work. I get to the office more focused and present. These small changes have changed how I work. Can you imagine a future where all of us enjoyed work? What would that look like? For you, that might mean 6-hour working days, flexible holidays, free childcare. But no matter what it looks like, it would also mean happier people, better engagement, and that can only be a good thing. In India, I learned that happiness can be found in any work. In South Africa, I learned to bring my whole self to work. And in Japan, I learned to think creatively about my skills. So I'll leave you with this. No matter what it looks like, go find your tuk-tuk. Design work that makes you happier, as you'll make you better at it too. Thank you.